Hello, folks. Back with more ancient cosmography and made a couple new discoveries, kind of within older discoveries. Um, so I figured out that in the Book of Two Ways map, like or not in the Gobekli Tepe Pillar 43 map, rather, um, that the P, the bird with the P next to it or with the pointer next to it is actually two islands. So I already figured out that that its body is Hispaniola, but I've now realized that its head, so this is how I was comparing it before. Like, this is Hispaniola, but it's incomplete. Um, because it turns out actually that that its head is Inagua. So yeah. Basically, this is the only one. One reason it took me so long to realize this or to, conclude this is because it's the only god on the stone that has a separate head from its body. The island, totally separate islands for the head and body. But then, ultimately I realized it has to be this because obviously the body matches with Hispaniola, but, I was thinking, oh, maybe the head just kind of, it's meant to match like this side of this peninsula right here, but it doesn't really match the other side, but maybe it's just stylized. But I now realize it has to include, it has to be Inagua. And especially the reason I realized this was because I was looking for the eye, because I noticed these eyes, especially in their well-defined, relate to actual geography, like basically waterways. So I looked and there's no waterways like that on this peninsula. So then the only other possibility was that it's something else, and that, I think it's this waterway, or it's some part of this waterway that goes through Inagua. So yeah, here's it, the whole stela with that. And stuff like that. And so by realizing that, I realized that the Book of Two Ways Egyptian map of Hispaniola probably has Inagua as its head also. Because, just as I was talking to somebody about the Gobekli one, I remembered that this thing has a head that's similarly shaped somewhat. And that was another one where I was thinking maybe the head is just purely stylized. Maybe it's, I was thinking maybe the head just is the peninsula zoomed in, with the ear being the little island on the side of it. But the fact that the head is a different color than the body maybe should have clued me in that it is separate islands. So, I mean, one reason that I took so long to realize both of these things, um, is that the Inagua is kind of far from there. I mean, like Inagua is actually maybe right there. I mean, it basically is there, but it's not like right up against it. So, in all the gods that I've seen in ancient maps that um, whose heads are separate islands, um, that's mostly I've found that in the Egyptian Book of Two Ways. There's like the Baja California god has a separate island as a head. The Sicily god does. The Java and Sumatra gods do. But most of them, like the island that's their head is like right on their coast. And it's usually more or less right where they place the head. Whereas in this case, it's not like that. I mean, it's in the general vicinity, but it's it's not. It's like the furthest one of any god that I've found. From their head from their body. But it's basically the same thing in both of these, in the Book of Two Ways and Gobekli Tepe Pillar 43. A different type of critter. I mean, I think in this case it's like maybe it's a jackal. Could even relate to Seth. It could be that this represents Seth, Jupiter. Who knows? So here I just tweaked the color to kind of match what they did. And so this shows Chetumal Bay and Costa Maya, which are called the guardian of the two gods. It's like that's the Yucatan, and so if you're sailing along the coast of America from South America to along the eastern coast north, then you have to cross this before you reach Cuba and Hispaniola, because Cuba's like right here or something. So yeah, Chetumal Bay is this guardian, and his knife seems to be Costa Maya, and it could also include like Cozumel and stuff. I don't know. So yeah, that makes sense. They're called the two gods, so I think they're pretty important gods. Like Hispaniola also seems to be Amet in the later Egyptian tradition. So here, this is more zoomed in. Yeah, so see the guardian of the two gods, and then the two gods, and then these guys are called. This one is he whose shape is great. And there's actually a chance that his body can include much more than this, that it might also include at least in one avatar or one sense, all the seamounts that surround this area, basically everything between this and South America and the Leeward Islands. That could be related to his name, he whose shape is great. Great meaning large, And then this guy is called the Lord of the Marshy Basin. So the Marshy Basin is either the Mediterranean, or I mean, the Caribbean in general, or it's just the Gulf of Mexico. So if it's the Gulf of Mexico, it might mean a basin, in that sense, like a basin in the side of the continent. But if it means the Caribbean altogether, then it might mean more of like a basin in the sea. Hard to be sure. So this is how, like, I was only able to decipher the Gobekli map because of what I had learned from these maps, the Book of Two Ways, and the Egyptian Hierakonpolis map, and the Book of the Dead map. So now, Egypt is returning the favor and helping to teach me about the Gobekli, or I mean, Gobekli is returning the favor and helping to teach me about the Egyptian maps. So yeah, this is a zoom in on, or a close up of Inagua, and so it's like clearly now Inagua is, this god is beheaded. So and maybe other damage done to them as well. So their head, it's not clear exactly to me where, like, where is this part supposed to just be here, or does it include this whole area? What's going on here? But obviously this is the beak, and then I think that I can see this, like, shape, like basically this shape here seems to be based on this shape here. That's my guess. And then this shape here is, I suspect, is basically this shape. Goes up, around, and down. That's more or less its shape. So I'm not sure how much it's stylized or how much it's based on the idea that it's changed shape through his, injuries and death and whatever. But I think it's clear that, or, it's probable that his eye is something in here. Like, it could be like something right here. Like, this is all water. I think that's why it's called Inagua, because it's all in agua, all in water. So yeah, I've looked for some of the other little marks on here, and I think I might have found some of the stuff, but it's at least generally matches. So yeah, guardian of the two gods. Yeah. Alright, so then what else do we have? So that's good that I finally figured that out. Hopefully that's the last major piece of both of these maps that I had yet to decipher. There's New Orleans, Scorpion Reef, Yucatan Peninsula. So alright, what else do we have? There is so as in that one, in the previous one, there was an eye that was just a hole, and it seemed to be a waterway. So compare that to these two. These are like kind of the big, I guess, the biggest gods on the stone. And so you can see that for the New Orleans god, one of his eyes is just a hole, and the other one is a hole with a circle around it. I mean, it's hard to see it super well, but you can kind of make that out. And then the South America and Panama god is, it just shows one of his eyes, and it's, a hole surrounded by a circle like this one. So that seems to be a pretty clear representation of, that the hole that's the one that's just a hole is Lake Pontchartrain here. And then the hole that's surrounded by a circle is this, the hole is actually this peninsula. I mean, it's kind of an island, I guess, technically, because it's separated by the end of the Mississippi River from the mainland, basically. So it's technically a roundish. I mean, it's probably a bunch of separate islands and seamounts as well in here. But I suspect that's that's kind of the pupil of the eye, and then this water around it is the circle around the eye. I forget the name of these bays or whatever they are. And then with this one, you have, the hole surrounded by the circle. So the hole, I think, again, is this island right here. And then the circle is just the water around it. So again, it's almost like a peninsula too, just like this. I think this is called like the Biloxi National Park, or I don't know. But yeah, so it's the same concept where you have like land that separates the eye from the sea. Here it's this long sandbar thing, and then here it's just this Isla Cebaco. And so yeah, that's his eye. It's a little weirder than this one, because Cebaco kind of sticks out. It's not a perfect front of the eye the way this part is, but close enough. And his mouth, I think, is I think there's some kind of waterway around there.